Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. Brian Kelly has to be one of the most misunderstood coaches I've ever seen. I mean, when he was at Notre Dame, I personally never understood why people didn't like him. Like, just from a distance viewing him. Maybe it's just because he's the Notre Dame coach and everybody hates Notre Dame. Fine, I get that. Well, okay, maybe now everyone hates him more because he left Notre Dame before his players found out. Okay, fine, whatever. But people kept on saying, no, he's just an asshole. He's not very likable. He's just not very likable. You'll see. Okay. I have listened to, quite literally, every single interview, big or small, every single comment he's ever made that he has done since coming to LSU, and I still don't understand why people don't like him. I just don't get it. Well, he's a hard person to like. I don't know, dude. I just don't see it. He's just kind of a chill dude. I mean, Jimbo and Saban, they pitch hissy fits when they don't get their way when someone criticizes them. But Brian Kelly just keeps on shrugging off the dancing video and the fake accent thing, just keeps laughing about it. I mean, he's showing that he's not taking himself too seriously. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool. It's a bit of refreshing. And to be perfectly honest, I like Brian Kelly's personality more than Coach O. And no, before you start shitting on me, I'm not doing this because Coach O lost and then everything got fired and this is all in hindsight. No. All right, I've said that the whole time, that Coach O, not my kind of coach as a player, but it's more of who would I rather have a beer with. Me personally, I don't do the meathead, balls to the walls party guy that's Coach O, all right? I'm not saying he's not entertaining, but I personally wouldn't want to hang out with him. Me, personally, my personality, I like the calm, witty, even-keeled dude that can have a smart, funny conversation, all right? That's just me. Agree to disagree, whatever. Anyways, what the fuck does that have to do with Kayshon Boutte and NIL, Nick? That's what it says in the title. Patience, grasshopper. Patience. So Jacques Doucet of WAFB in Baton Rouge sat down with Brian Kelly for about 35 minutes or so. Brian Kelly was asked about whether there were players on the team that left LSU when he got there because they didn't want to practice hard and go to class and show up early for meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess, you set a bar, right? And some know that they can meet and exceed that standard, and some really find that this is not what I can do. And they're going to look for an easier path. And so we just set those standards, and, we're not looking to run anybody out of the program. I'm about player development. I want guys to succeed. And so we put a standard together, and guys have to choose that that's what they want to do, and some just can't reach that standard.
Weed out the weaklings. So funny that they should bring this up because I rewatched the old ESPN movie, The Junction Boys, from 2002. I rewatched that the other day. Bear Bryant's first training camp at Texas A&M back in 1954, I believe. He was basically cleaning house. It's like, we got too many soft players. Let's just beat them to death and see who survives. Start the culture over again. Well, it's time to do that here at LSU. And yes, certain players that left for those exact reasons, some of them were starters, and you probably know who they are. Brian Kelly was also asked about some of the changes that he's like to see off the field as far as academics and community stuff, all those other things, and why that part is so important to football. Because most people will say, well, isn't the rough academics the reason why he kind of left Notre Dame? True, that's part of it, but Kelly still wants to bring a better academic standards to LSU football, even though they're not an academic power. Because even guys like Kirby Smart and Nick Saban have higher standards for academics for their players and have raised the academic standing for their football teams. And Brian Kelly explained why you have to do that, why that's so important.
It's absolutely crucial because I think they go hand in hand. I don't think you get a championship unless you are talking about excelling both on and off the field. It's kind of what I talked about earlier, Jock, is that you have to have that attention to detail in the classroom. We want to be able to do that. I think you can at LSU. You can talk about excellence both on and off the field and not have to apologize about it. So I think that the traits are universal. I think if you are doing the work in the classroom, if you're on top of things, you're going to be on top of things when you get to the field. You're not cutting classes. You're probably not going to be jumping offside. Those things are definitely transferable.
I hope that certain turd in the punch bowl professor at the Manship School, my alma mater on LSU's campus, hears that last clip. All right, time to get to Kayshon Boutte. So Jacques didn't ask Brian Kelly specifically about Jimbo or Saban because Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, has told all of the coaches in the SEC, do not talk about that. But he did ask Brian Kelly about Kayshon's rumors of being courted by Alabama and Texas A&M for NIL deals, and ultimately asked Brian Kelly, what is the line from getting what you can in NIL deals to simply blackmailing your current school and boosters at every corner just so you can get as much as you want?
Well, I think there is a line, and I think the line is, and I'll use Kayshon for example. He doesn't have his hand out. He knows that he's got an opportunity to play in the NFL, and that's his real opportunity to make money. And so the opportunities that he's gotten for name, image, and likeness are real, and they're based upon success that he's already had on the field, because there are community leaders that see that he could help them in their businesses. So we're all for those kinds of situations. But I think what we're doing in educating our players is that it's not, you do this for me and I'll do that for you. This has to be about really understanding that we're going to help you build your brand, but it's not for free. You've got to do the little things right on a day-to-day basis. You've got to honor a contract. You've got to pay your taxes. And it's time-consuming as well. You have to do all those things. And I think what our players are understanding is that, there's a lot involved with name, image, and likeness. And if I have the time to do it and do it the right way and finish off some of these obligations, then I'll do it. If not, I'm going to focus on training. And that's what Kayshon's doing right now. He's getting ready for a great season because he knows that if he's a first-round draft pick, name, image, and likeness is short money for him.
Okay, look. I don't think Kayshon was blackmailing or threatening boosters or LSU coaches. I don't think that at all. What I think is what happened was that Alabama came for Kayshon and Eli Ricks. And Eli Ricks, who is not from Louisiana, was like, screw it. I'll leave. I'm pissed. Coach isn't here anymore, whatever. And Kayshon looked at that gob of money from Alabama and probably Texas A&M and said, okay, I'm from Louisiana, dude. I don't want to leave LSU, okay? I want to stay here. I like the hire, but look, there's a lot of pressure on me to take this life-changing money right now. So LSU boosters got wind of it, stepped up, stopped it before Kayshon could make a decision, and, it is what it is. I don't think Kayshon was manipulating anyone, but has Kayshon changed to Brian Kelly's culture? Because remember, Brian Kelly did call him out, shot one across his bow, so to speak, as Brian Kelly put it the other week. And Brian Kelly said Kayshon has responded to the criticism.
I was proud of him. I really was, because some would take it the other way and say, I'm not going to do this. But, by the end of the spring, he was coaching our younger players. He was doing the little things the right way. He's been in the training room. He wasn't earlier. All I know is that he's doing the little things necessary for himself and our team that's going to put him in a good position later.
So there you go. All is well in Tigerland. And if I may say something else about LSU and the competition in NIL circles with other SEC schools, there is a law about to be passed later this summer, or being brought up in the legislature later this summer in June. I don't understand politics, but it's coming up, that will help LSU in the NIL department, where other schools cannot directly give NIL deals to players. This law, state law, would potentially help that with LSU. So give them an advantage. But we'll talk about that later as we get down into the summer months. But Brian Kelly has said that NIL is very important. It's the most important thing for athletic departments to handle. Every athletic department will say that, more than even facilities. But he was asked about what facility upgrades that he would like to see.
we have to enhance our medical facilities. And Bo Lowry does a great job as our head athletic trainer, but he needs more space, and we're in a fundraising project right now to enhance our athletic training facility, in particular the rehabilitation services for our players. So that's an area that we'll improve on. Scott Woodward is committed to that end. There are other bigger projects, and you know them as well as anybody. You know, we've got to get the PMAC up and running, and there needs to be some renovations there for sure. But this is a project that's been underway for a while, and we'll see that come to fruition.
So that kind of shocked me a bit. But that also didn't totally surprise me. So LSU has great facilities, but LSU has had injury problems, specifically the last 2 seasons. And I don't know, maybe the modern medical staff that Brian Kelly has brought in has said, here's the reasons why. I think everyone wanted to blame Tommy Moffitt. All right, I think that's a convenient thing to do. Now, I'm not saying he deserves no blame, all right? I'm not here to defend Tommy Moffitt or absolve him completely, because he was the strength and conditioning coach, all right? He bears some responsibility in the same way that every coach bears some responsibility, okay? I'm not absolving him, but as I've said before, the truth is never as sexy as the narrative we tell ourselves, all right? The narrative is, well, just blame Tommy Moffitt. Look, injuries were a combination of a lot of things, right? Sometimes they just happen for no good reason. But I will say that facility arms races that get updated every single year will start to slow down now because most of that booster money will be going to NIL. And maybe the next thing that they're concerned about, like the PMAC, that'll come a little bit later than planned because of NIL stuff. So before we end this, just a few more. Brian Kelly was also asked why people keep on assuming he took the LSU job just for the money and not necessarily to win. So lastly, many people have been talking about Harold Perkins, LSU's top signee, finally being on campus. And here's what Kelly had to say on his evaluation of Perkins and meeting with him.
You know, really an interesting observation for me in that, you know, many people talked about his physical skills and then decommitting and flipping. Probably one of the most thoughtful young men that I was around in this class. How much time he took to really get to know us in a very short period of time. We did a number of Zoom calls with him. His questions were deep and thoughtful about how he was going to be taught. Just the entire, I think, recruiting process with him really reached a new level for me in the sense that this wasn't a kid looking for any handouts or, you know, what can you do for me or can I start? Was really, really impressed with this young man.
Okay, maybe the word handout was not the best choice of words for Brian Kelly on Harold Perkins because Harold Perkins was looking for a handout in NIL deals, just like damn near every recruit was, which is why he was going to go to Texas A&M for that reason, even though he grew up an LSU fan and is originally from Louisiana. LSU stepped up and the deal fell apart with A&M, whatever. But people have asked me, what is Harold Perkins' role on this team this season, coming in late? And the best comparison that I can give you is Marcel Brooks in 2019. Freshman linebacker, he ended up transferring to TCU the next year in 2020 because, God forbid, they have to run a 4-3 instead of a 3-4. But I see Harold Perkins having that same role. In 2019, Marcel Brooks, freshman linebacker, came in late, but he had certain blitz packages that he would come in kind of roaming around. Not a full-time starter. Matt House's defense requires, I think, a lot of communication and a lot of veteran experience. And him coming in late, plus the fact that I really like the linebackers in spring, I don't think Harold Perkins is going to be a full-time starter at any point in the season. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think he's going to have a lot of packages, and I think he's going to have a lot of impact on special teams as well, because they do want to put starters or key players on special teams. But I see Marcel Brooks in 2019 as the best comparison for what Harold Perkins will be. Except Harold Perkins is way, way, way better. Like, way better. And to be honest, I'm feeling a lot better about this defense as a whole, despite the depth concerns at cornerback. All right, I'm done. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.